Jigar, thank you so much for joining us on ITV Gold. What an incredible event. So much talk about children, so much talk about entrepreneurship, so much talk about success. You know, when an event such as Cry America and Homies puts up a panel discussion such as this, what do you think it sort of creates as an impact? And do you think that having discussions such as this and having these dialogues are sort of important for us to empower our community?
Yeah, so actually I was thinking about that, and when I saw the event come through and about 60, 70 odd folks come in here, it's very interesting. People from very different backgrounds come in and they have very different questions, and it's interesting how as the panel progressed, people started opening up and asking very different kinds of questions, and you could see the networking happening after the event was over, where it is not just the panelists actually, it's about the people who come to the event are networking with each other as well and learning from each other. And I can assure you, I feel like when I was watching the people coming in versus the people leaving, same people, right? The difference was they're coming in a little bit awkward, they're looking around, just trying to get some water or just hanging out by themselves. On the way out, they're discussing a lot of different business ideas, they're exchanging business cards, they're high in energy, excitement, there's a lot more enthusiasm. So I think it brings the community together. It's a good evening for a very, very good cause. So I think it's a pretty positive event.
I have to ask you on that, just the networking side before we go into Cry America. Why is it so difficult even now for South Asians to network? And especially when you look at young professionals, what kind of advice could you perhaps share with them in order to network more or to reach out more? Because apparently that is an issue that a lot of us are facing right now. And that is an issue that sometimes could hinder your success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these days there is no excuse because, 20 years ago there was no Facebook or WhatsApp or LinkedIn. And there was no homies, and there is no many people won't have emails or cell phones back then. So I think it's just internal inertia. The opportunities are out there everywhere. So you could be in a running group, you could be in a poker group, you could be whatever your passion is, right? You're into philanthropy, or you are into sports, or you are into business. Right. There are groups out there on different websites, and it's for you to go reach out. So I think people are. There are people who are complaining, or they talk about there's not enough networking opportunities, and there are others who are like, what are you talking about? There's plenty of stuff going on. You're just not in it. So it takes effort to get started, and it's super crucial because you just don't have a worldview, especially if you're just graduating from university. Your worldview is very narrow, right? If you don't talk to, you're an engineer with 4 other roommates who are also engineers. You don't know anything about what's going on in finance or investments world or in medical science or whatnot, and you don't hang out with people in humanities and learning philosophy or something else. So, but if you start networking, you get a much bigger worldview of what's happening around you, and it broadens your possibilities of what can you do when you quote unquote grow up, right? When you go into the corporate world or you start your own company, who should you reach out to if you want to start your own company? You need somebody to do your marketing, somebody to sales, somebody to build the product for you. There's so much involved there. And if you are not networking enough, it actually helps you with your personal life too. You won't have a good friend circle and have fun and have a good life.
As I've described them again and again in all interviews, it's a charity that is serving the most underserved children of India, as I would say. The children from the street, the children that are most often ignored, even amongst the children that need help. What do you have to say about the incredible work they have done and the fact that there are still about 33 million children left to be helped in India?
Yes, I think CRY does an amazing job. I was been associated with them for almost 20 years. Right. And the highlight of my association came, so we had been supporting some projects in various parts of the country. But when I visited one of the projects, I spent 3 days in Jharkhand, went up to inside the hills and the tribes who don't even speak the local dialect, let alone speaking in Hindi. They are their own little communities in their own language. For somebody to come in there and influence them, drive change, a sustainable long-term change is a very, very hard process. And I saw that firsthand for 3 days. There are no easy answers. Like, you sit here 10,000 miles away, you think, why do you do this? Why do you do that? And, there's resistance from the people who need help to get help. They don't want you sometimes to send their children to school because they want their children to make money. That's so true. They don't want you to avoid child marriages because they want to send off their daughter early, so they know how to, they think of it as a burden they're carrying. So they have to be educated that it is in their best interest to let these volunteers come in and drive that change. So it's very, very hard job, and the CRY has been doing it for many, many years, for many decades. And then people are donating. They worry about how much of my money is going to charity versus how much of it is going to administrative costs. So they worry too much about that without knowing the details. And when I was on the ground, the people who are working for the projects, they themselves are, very modest folks who are, wearing slippers and torn pants and shirts, where you feel like they're not out there to make a ton of money. Their hearts are in the charity, right? They are serving. And if your contribution is paying their income, their little house, which is practically a hut in a village with 3 children, you are doing charity to them as well, right? So it's really, you have to get involved. You have to go visit some of these sites to know how far your dollar goes and how much long-lasting change you can actually drive. And CRY in particular teaches them to fish, doesn't give them the fish. So it is a long-lasting change they drive in a community which lasts for decades to come. And that is the kind of legacy you want to leave behind. Like, try to give more to the world than what you've taken from it. So I would say really, it's been a very fulfilling journey so far for 20 years with CRY. And I feel very fortunate that I've been associated with them.
Yes, I have to ask you, your family is a big-time donor. You have supported the cause. You have, helped mobilize. There is so much help that we still need for the children. What's, an appeal you could give to the South Asian parents, the audiences watching, to help these children and also understand that there is a lot in the world to give, and perhaps we should, maybe just a little bit, right? What would you like to say as a comment on that?
Yeah, I would like to say that we're all very fortunate. And if you're watching this thing, chances are you have a TV. And if you have a TV or a phone you're watching this on, you're already in the top 1% of the population, of top 5% of the population, where we're fortunate enough to be having this luxury. And that's just a simple example, but there is so much we can do to make a difference. And the thing I'll tell you is, in the long run, you're not going to get satisfaction by the money you make, the cars you drive, or the vacations you take. All those things are fun, but that's not going to drive your personal satisfaction. You're going to ask yourself, what was my purpose in this world? And when you serve others, and I really mean this, when I actually visited the trip, I saw this, the impact you make to somebody's lives, it puts your life in perspective. When your child is crying for the 15th toy for the month, and you're deciding whether should I spend $20 on this toy, or should I reserve that $20 and send it to a charity and help the cause where it can help vaccination of 100 kids in India, right? Imagine the difference you can make once you see that firsthand. So you start small. We did not start 20 years ago supporting an entire project. That's a lot of commitment. We started very small, and then we see the impact, and then you feel like, okay, let me give a little bit more. And then you realize that the outflow of the funds from your bank balance is going to hurt you less than the inflow of the goodwill you're going to get by giving. Once you do that, you realize it is your selfish need to make the world better, and you're going to feel really happy about doing that. So I would say try it and keep persistent at it. Doesn't matter where you start. Give your time, give your expertise, or give money, but start somewhere small and keep going from there.
What are your hopes for CRY? And I'm talking about a 5, 10, and 15-year plan. What are your hopes?
So 5, 10, 15-year plans. I really hope that CRY, I think there's a challenge here to be able to, the last question was the key challenge. How do we convince millions of fairly affluent South Asians, Indians, to participate? We were all fortunate to be where we are. And how do we motivate them to come and join the cause? It does require a lot of funds to make a big impact. India has more than 1 billion people, with hundreds of millions living below the poverty line. And then millions of children who are still working and they're not going to school. So I think the challenge is going to be, how do we convince those of people with influence? If we look at Bill Gates, why is he going after every billionaire in the country and other countries to influence them to go give? Why is he converting Warren Buffett to go give, right? Because that's where a lot of power is in terms of the monetary funds that are needed. And so that is from a financial perspective. And from the youth perspective, I think the youth of today versus 20 years ago, I think they're much more enlightened. They're more positive. They're more tolerant about different religions and everything, right? So I have a huge hope that the youth will join the cause by becoming the volunteers and actually reaching out. And today the youth is more, when you recruit people, I've recruited thousands of people over the years, right? Do you recruit somebody who is maybe 15 years in the experience in the industry versus somebody who's coming out of college?
Right.
People who are coming out of college, they're looking for a real cause to work for. They're not just asking you how much money will I make or will you sell me free drinks and food or not. They want to know, will I make a difference in the world? You know, in the investment world today, people are talking about ESG, which is environmental, sustainable, and governance, which is more like sustainable investing. The world is waking up that there's global warming, there's all kinds of issues going on that we need to go make an impact to. So I have a lot of aspirations from the youth today. If you look at the volunteers, there's a lot of them are actually spending a ton of time. So in the next 5, 10, 15 years, I hope we just bring in more volunteers, more donors, and then keep on expanding to more and more projects in India. And you know, if I were to extrapolate 100 years out, I hope we don't need CRY in 100 years. You know, we hope that everybody's at a high, and CRY would be doing other projects at that point about focusing on a higher level of need. Today, you are focused on the most basic level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is security, and you are providing ways to make sure they have food and education and safety.
Sustainability.
Yeah. Sustainability. But
that's the all. Sustainability.
how will the planet remain the way it is 100 years from today, right? So I think there's a long ways to go for CRY. I'm a huge well-wisher and a supporter and a volunteer. And I hope, more and more people, and it's not just, it doesn't have to be CRY. I mean, I think whatever you believe in, if you want to focus on animal rights or you want to focus on women's education or whatever it is, whatever cause you believe in, I'm not saying go for CRY. I'm just saying whatever you believe in, go pursue that, spend some time and money and investment of your own yourself, and you'll get very rich rewards out of it. So I really, if anything, I would like to, for the listeners, to inspire them to go out there and go help somebody.
Thank you so much for your time. Well, this was Jigar, and this was CRY America, homies, bringing you CRY Connect, a beautiful event that really talked about empowering voices, helping people, giving back. Check out CRY America's website to learn so much about their incredible work, the opportunities, and all the work that their incredible volunteers have done. I'm Aditi Lama with cameraman Kripa, signing off. Stay tuned on to ITV Gold as we bring you so much. Your voices, our people, our community.